Hi, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Laurel. I'm Laurel, and in this video we're going to take a look at percent problems. In the previous video, we talked about solving percent problems using the proportion that I outlined, percent over 100 equals amount over base. And if you get a question that's worded like this, it's fairly straightforward to determining where each of these numbers go. The percent always goes over 100, and the base will be the of number. So 500 would go in base, 30 would go above the 100, and you would be finding amount. But when you look at real life applications, you're not going to see the word problems written quite so simply. So let's take a look at some typical word problems that you might see. So this first problem says the regular price of an item is $180. It is on sale for 20% off. Find the sale price. There's two ways that we can do this question. We can find 20% of 180, and then we subtract it from 180 to get the sale price. So let's do it that way first. So remember, the percent always goes over 100. And we're finding 20% of 180. So 180 is our base. So what we're finding is the amount that it is reduced. We cross multiply, so 100 times x will equal 3,600. 20 times 180. Divide both sides by 100, and we get 36. So that means that 20% of 180 is $36. So that means our item is discounted $36. But that's not the sale price. That's the amount it will be reduced. So the sale price will be equal to $180 minus $36. So the sale price will be $144. So often you'll have other steps other than just using your proportion with percent problems. That's one method you could use. There is another approach that we could have used for this particular question. The other way to think of this question is, if it's 20% off, you're going to be paying 100% minus 20% is equal to 80%. So if they're taking off 20%, you're actually only going to be paying 80% of the regular price for that item. So what we could do instead of finding 20% and subtracting it, we could just simply find 80% of our regular price. Again, percent goes over 100, so 80 over 100 will equal, our base is still 180, so we're finding what 80% of $180 is. We cross multiply, 100x will equal 14,400. We divide by 100 to solve for x, and we get 144. So we get the same result. It's just whether it just depends on whether you do your subtracting before and just subtract with percents, and then when you get your answer, you're done. Or if you do the 20% and then remember to subtract that from your regular price at the end. Let's take a look at a similar example. The next question states the price for an item is $80 and the total sales tax is 15%. What is the total paid for the item? So we're not just paying $80 for that item, we also have to pay the taxes on it. So again, there's two ways we can approach this. We could find 15% of our $80 and then add it. So let's do it that way first. So we're going to find 15%. So 15 goes over 100 of 80. So our base is 80, and we're finding the amount. We're finding what amount is 15% of 80. We cross multiply. So 100 times x will equal 1,200. divide by 100 to solve for x, and x is 12. Now when we get an answer, we're not done. That's the amount of tax that needs to be paid on that $80 item. So to get the total price paid, we would take $80, add $12, and get $92. So that's one way you could approach this problem, but there's another way you could approach it. If you know that you're going to be paying 15% in taxes, what you're going to be paying is 100% of the price plus 15% of that price. So you're going to be paying a total of 115% of $80. So you could set it up in a proportion using 115%. And when you get 115% of 80, that's going to be your total price paid. So percent goes over 100. The base is still $80. You're finding 115% of 80, and you're finding what that amount is. We cross multiply, so 100 times x will equal 9,200. We divide by 100. And we get $92 that way. So again, you have a choice. You can either find 15%, take that amount of taxes, and add to the price of the item to get your total. Or you can add the 15% before you start. So the 15% to the 100% to get 115%. And then when you get an answer, you're done because you've already added the taxes in. These are fairly typical percent problems. So make sure that you understand either this method or this method. Another common type of percent problem involves percent increases and decreases. So a typical question would look like this. The student population increased from 1,200 to 1,300 students. What is the percent increase? What I typically see students do is they just start throwing in the numbers right away into their proportion. They put 1,200 over 1,300 because 1,200 is the smaller amount, and try to solve. But take your time. Before you can find the percent of increase, you need to know the amount of increase. And we're not given the amount of increase. It's not 1,200, it's not 1,300. So the amount of increase is found by taking the difference. So it's 1,300 minus 1,200 will equal 100. So we're going to use 100. Now remember, when you're setting up your percent questions, you put percent over 100. We're trying to find percent, so that will be our unknown. This is the amount of increase, so the amount goes in the numerator. The other issue I see students having is not knowing what number to put in the denominator for their base. And the rule is, whenever you're working with percent increases or percent decreases, you always have to use the original amount. So what did it increase from, or what did it decrease from? In this case, it went from 1,200 to 1,300. So we use 1,200 as our base. Always use the original number as your base. Now we cross multiply. So we've got 10,000 will equal 1,200 times x. Divide both sides by 1,200, and we get 8.3%. So the percent increase in student population was 8.3%. So just be very careful that you're finding the amount first, and then be careful that you're using the original number as your denominator for your base. Let's try another one that's similar. This next example says Joey took his dog to the vet due to unexplained weight loss. Sparky's weight went from 60 pounds to 50 pounds. What is the percent decrease? So very similar to our last example, except this time it's a decrease. Before you can set up your percent proportion, you need to find the amount of decrease. So we subtract 60 pounds minus 50 pounds. So the amount of decrease is 10 pounds. Now we set up our proportion. We're finding the percent decrease, so that's going to be our unknown, and percent always goes over 100. The amount of decrease is 10 pounds over, again, when you're finding the percent of decrease or increase, your base has to be the number that it increased or decreased from. So it went from 60 pounds to 50 pounds. So we use the 60. We want to know what percent 10 is of 60. Not the new weight, but the original weight. Now we cross multiply, so we're going to get 1,000 equals 60 times x, divide both sides by 60, and we get 16.7%. So the percent decrease is 16.7%. So when you read these questions, determine if you have to do any work before you set up your percent equation or after. And just make sure that you've answered the question that was asked. And remember that at some point during the solution, you're going to be encountering this equation, where percent goes over 100, the amount over the base. You need to know all values except for one. So practice these in order to get good at them.